All right, we're back. We just finished up this grueling automation stuff with Gulp that kind of worked and kind of didn't. We're not finished yet. That's why we're doing it. And I got to fix this thing here. So where are we? So we've gotten this piece done. We've gotten the piece where in my Gulp file.js, we've got this transpile function, which is pretty cool, and it transpiles everything that's inside of my, right now anyway, inside my server.js, because that's the one path. I can add other paths, by the way. Let's say, for example, I'm going to do Angular in the future, and I want to use Angular with TypeScript. And by the way, that is the new way of doing Angular, right? If you look at Angular 2, Google and Microsoft combined forces to create Angular 2, right? And TypeScript. It used to be called AtScript, Angular script. But they just kind of went away from that, and they said, you know what? Microsoft's language, TypeScript, is way more developed than we can possibly do at Google. Let's just use TypeScript. And that's what they've been doing. So that's why TypeScript is, that's why I'm telling you TypeScript, make you crazy with it. It's because this really is important. And also TypeScript is very close to ECMAScript 6, right? So if you know TypeScript, then you can come away with almost knowing the new version of JavaScript, pretty much. Okay, so we've done transpilation, but I want to be able to do something else called a watch task. And what's built into Gulp is the ability for us to watch files that change. So I want to watch files that change. So let's say, for example, I watch my TypeScript files, and if my TypeScript files change, right? So I can look at the folder, those TypeScript sources, and if those files change, I want to transpile automatically. So any file that changes in there, my TS files, I want to transpile automatically. Okay, let's do that. So in order for me to do that, I got to create a new task. So I'm going to say gulp.task, and then I'm going to call it watch. And what I want to do here is I want to make an anonymous function again. This is how we do it. And in my anonymous function, I want to put in my watch task, right? So gulp.watch. And notice my gulp watch has two things. It's a string followed by some kind of string array, right? One part is the string array of what I'm looking at, almost like a string path array. So that's my first thing. So of course, what is it? TypeScript sources, right, is my first piece. And if I want to look at my example online, because you know, if you don't remember what it is, it's right here. So it looks like gulp watch TypeScript sources, and then we're going to transpile. That's my second thing I'm going to do, right? So gulp watch TypeScript sources, and then I want in brackets. Brackets means I want to fire up my transpile task. So remember, it's got to be called transpile like this. What is it saying? Let's read it. Let's read it as it should be read. Watch the TypeScript sources and something changes transpile. That's what it's saying. All right? Something changes in my TypeScript sources transpile. That means that, and by the way, remember what we did before. When we did our transpile, it released us back into on the command line, right? Just like normal. It does its stuff and then lets us go. With our watch task, it's going to be very similar to what we do with NodeMon, right? It's going to wait and keep watching until we control C out of it. Okay, that's what it's going to do. So if I was to do something like this, gulp watch, right now, it'll watch for anything that happens. Notice that it's now watching the folders, the paths for that's TypeScript. Anything that's underneath my server folder that has to do with TypeScript, it's watching. So any changes I make. So an example of this would be if I go to my app.ts, right? Here's my app.ts, and I want to make a change to some of the stuff that I'm doing, right? Of course, everyone calls me when I'm here. An example of this would be like, hey, you know what? I'm really cool with my routes here, but I don't care about my user's route. So let's get rid of it. I'm just going to get rid of my user route, or let's just comment it out for now because it's not that important. And you know, if I comment out my user's routes, but that's cool. Let's comment out my app.use as well. So if I don't have user routes, I don't want to use it. And then I'm going to save. Watch what happens. Let's bring up my thing so you can see this, right? So save, and on save, bam, it recompiles right away, right? So I've just transpiled again. As soon as I save my file, my TS file, bam, I'm transpiled. That's really cool, man. And that means that it kind of has the functionality that we normally expect from something like Visual Studio 2015, 2015. So you can do TypeScript with Visual Studio, no problem. Okay, cool. So that's one thing. I'm going to Control C out of that. I don't just want to transpile or do stuff here, my watch task. I want to reload my server sometimes too, right? And one of the things that my gulp file .js can do, I can make another task that is called connect. And my connect is almost like a little express server that I run in the background, right? And what this does is it runs a server that launches a task, but it doesn't make any sense. For a regular HTML site, connect works fantastic, right? I'm going to show you how to use it anyway, and let's see what problems you might have with this. Notice that this is the way it looks for my connect, right? So, and the root is what it's going to be looking at when it comes to running a server, right? But this makes no sense for us because we're running Node, right? So one thing to look at is gulp. If I go back to gulp, here's my gulp. And if I go to gulp.js, I have a plugins area. Here's my plugins area. There's tons of plugins here for different kinds of things, different automation tasks you can do. And one of them, I guarantee, is something called gulp nodemon. Right, there's gulp nodemon. So I already have nodemon, and I need to do this. I need to install another module, gulp nodemon. So let's do that. So let's kind of go in there and fix this thing. So I'm going to go npm install gulp nodemon minus save minus dev, right? Put that in there. And we want to see if TSD, if it exists for TSD as well. So I want to be able to automate my nodemon. So when I go gulp nodemon, it's running a nodemon server and it's waiting, but it's also running my task watcher, right? So I want to be able to watch my tasks and reload my server, my nodemon server, when something changes. All right? Let's try that. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go clear tsd install gulp-nodemon. Let's see if they have that. May not. Minus save. If they do, it's going to find it and include it. If not, it does. Gulp nodemon, very popular module for it to have it. That's why it's there, right? Now I got to follow my API documentation. So I wanted to show you this one because there's some stuff I showed you how to do, but there might be some stuff you want to do with gulp that you don't know how to do. And each one of these gulp modules or extensions or plugins, whatever you want to call them, they have API documentation we have to follow. So let's do it together. This is part of your lab number 4, right? So you can get your 2%. I'm paying you for this thing. So help me out, right? I'm going to go back to online. It says, here's my installation instructions. So I did this. Here's my usage. Gulp nodemon looks almost exactly like regular nodemon, but it's made for use with the gulp tasks, which is totally cool, right? So here's a task. It's called start, right? And then what I'm doing here is I'm using the nodemon task, right? I'm a nodemon option here. And the only way I can do this is if I make a reference, right, to nodemon. So I have to create nodemon var nodemon is equal to gulp-nodemon, chances are, right? And then I'll do this. Script server.js, extension, so JS and HTML, these are the extensions I'm looking at. Environment, node, environment, and its development, right? I can set up my environment if I want to. I don't have to use all of these switches, by the way. Only some. For example, script is required. I need that one, right? But the other two, extensions and environment, I believe both those are optional. So here's another example, nodemon, and then I can also do a task browserify. And it says, here's an example. If you want to lint your code with when you make changes, that's easy to do. And what if you want to decouple your build process by language or even by file? Easy. Just set the task option to a function, right? So whatever function you want, so you can decouple. So how would you set this up? If you've never seen nodemon before, right? I'm not going to get you to do this stuff here. But if you've never seen nodemon before, how would you set it up? Well, here, take a look. Var gulp is equal to require gulp. We've done that. And here's nodemon is equal to require gulp nodemon. So we need to do the same thing that we've always done. That's what's going to happen, right? And we're not going to lint. We're not going to do a lint task. We want to develop. Here's where we're developing, right? And this piece I definitely want to do. So this develop piece, right, is what I want to do. This task right here, pretty much, right, I want to do. And on restart, I want to show that the gulp has restarted everything. I don't care about this task here for lint, but I want to use tasks, right, this task for my watch. So every time I I want to do my task, my watch task, to make sure that anything changes, right? As an example, in my TypeScript, it gets transpiled. That's what I want it to do. Okay. So I'm almost going to use this exact script. You try it. So take this script on gulp nodemon, put it together so that it can work for your task, and see if you can get it to go. All right. So again, I'm looking at gulp nodemon, right? And I want to include this task manager right here, this task runner. And I'll do it with you as you go. Go ahead. So one is I've installed it, and now I want to include it. And by the way, the order doesn't make any difference. So let's put it in. So I'm going to say var nodemon is equal to require gulp nodemon. There we are. Cool. All right. I'm able to do my transpile tasks, right? And the only one I want to do that is when I watch. So when I have my watch tasks, kind of does the same thing as what nodemon does, but a little bit different. And I only want to watch certain things. So I don't want to call watch, right, as an example. And the only time nodemon's going to restart, right, is when, as an example, when JavaScript restarts. So I don't have to take care of that JavaScript task. That's kind of ugly. Let's write that task. So gulp.task, and I'll call this thing just like it says, develop, right? I'll write an anonymous function, just like we normally do. Here it is. This is the space for the task. Notice that the order again doesn't matter. And we're going to say nodemon. Right, and if I open this up, it gives me some code hinting. It says option, gulp nodemon option, different options, and there's an event emitter. All right, so let's go back to the thing to give us an example of how to do this. I like this final version down in here. Here's my example. I don't care about my lint task, but I'm going to call something like this, and almost looks like my transpile task, right? But it says, here's my ignore.js. I don't care about the ignore.js file. Ignore this one. Don't do that, right? I could tell it to ignore stuff. But I'm going to look at my script, server.js, and my extensions are HTML and JS. So if any HTML or JS changes, it's going to restart. That's what it's saying. And I can add other ones in there too. CSS, EJS, whatever I want, right? Which is cool. So let's do that. Let's copy this task. It's almost the same as what I've got almost written. Just put it underneath. Okay, get rid of this one. And what I want to do is kind of fix this up. I don't care about this piece, so I can take that out. And my tasks lint for now, right? I don't want to lint anything, right? I do want to transpile though. So transpile is definitely something I want to do when I develop, right? And if I call my watch task, because you can do watch tasks, it's kind of the same as what I do with nodemon. Maybe, maybe I don't need to do that. What if I just go, if my TypeScript changes, right, TypeScript, and if my CSS changes and my EJS changes, right, all these things, I want to transpile with my tasks. So transpile on any one of these changes. See if that works, right? And on restart, I want to on any one of these changes, console restart, just show the restart. And I can do, instead of console log, I can do like gutil.log, gutil.log restarted. Make sure you put all your semicolons. A lot of times, you see some of these API calls, and they don't have semicolons. I don't need one here because I got the on task. Let me just reformat the code so you see it a little better. There we go. Okay, so let's see if this works. I've got my extensions, a bunch of them. I got tasks, my transpile task. Hopefully that works. And my on restart, then restart it. So save. And let's run this thing. So I'll say gulp develop. Let's see if it runs. So hey, cool. Okay, it's running. It's running nodemon. That's what I wanted, right? I can't run nodemon gulp without nodemon being installed, by the way, globally. I need to have that. And if I want to transpile, so I want to go back into here and into my app.ts, and let's put those ones back. You know what? I decided I want my users back right in here. So I'm going to save, and let's see what nodemon does. Transpiles. Look, transpiles, and then we're done, and it restarts, and we have a major problem. What is it doing? It's keeps on transpiling over and over and frickin' over again, right? That's bad. Man, if I want to try, I have to stop. App crashed, waiting for file changes before restarting. Right now, nothing's really crashed. It's just what's happened is I've transpiled, but because my transpile task, take a look what I'm doing here. I've got to be very careful when I write stuff, right? My transpile task says, hey, watch if something changes, and when something changes, do my JavaScript files. Well, because I'm watching JavaScript files, because the JavaScript file changes, I'm going to retranspile. That's what's going to happen, right? That can't be. You can't do both. I can't transpile on a JavaScript file changing, right? Doesn't make any sense, right? So let's take away the JavaScript piece for a second. All right, put this back in. And let's try that again. So go up and develop. So far, so good. Let's take those things back out again as a test. So all I'm doing is I'm just commenting them out just to show you a change, right? Go back and put these out again and save. And now let's go back and see what it does. Transpiling, and we're good. Restart the server. That's good. That's what I want, right? But I also want to watch if my JavaScript changes, then I want to restart my server. I want to restart my server on JavaScript change too, because I have stuff that's not TS files so far. And here's the reason why I have no TS files. I don't have all TS files. And I'm going to warn you about this, guys. In some sense, you can do a hybrid where you have some stuff that's TS, TypeScript, and sometimes some stuff that's JS, JavaScript. But in general, what they warn you to do always is to choose one or the other. Once you go hybrid, then you have some of these problems, right? So there's a couple of options. I could convert my other stuff for example, in my routes. I could convert my route from JavaScript here, like my index.js, which is my routing. I'm gonna fix my routing up here, into TypeScript. And I think it's pretty safe to do because there's not much in here that's going to screw me up, right? So let's do that. And this is the approach I recommend. So TypeScript, there we go. Change that one right there, and automatically when I change it, it transpiles because NodeMon's watching, right? So that's pretty cool. Like any changes I make to a JavaScript file now or a TypeScript file automatically changes the JavaScript file anyway, and we're good to go. I know I'm trying to sell this to you, but Ari's like, okay, enough, move on. Great. All right, cool. So this is pretty cool. I want to create some routes because we're going to make this. I'm going to remake your Express portfolio site for you right now, right? Before I put it up to GitHub, so we're ready to go. Remember, I did those files last week, and I did it one time where I went to EJS and I made those partials, and some of you saw it, and some of you sent me hate mail saying, Tom, it didn't work for me. Can you show me that again when we get to class next time? So I'm going to show you again, all right? But I need to modify this page heavily, so that's one. So I don't have really any other TypeScript or any other JavaScript files in here that I got to modify other than my server.js. Hey, here's the question. Do I want to modify my server.js and make it into TypeScript? Let's take a look at it. The answer is no. You know why? I don't need to. There's nothing going on here. All it's doing is listening on a particular port. So I'm pretty cool with that. I'm all right with that, right? Okay, one more gulp task. So I got this really cool task that we made, this NodeMon task, which is totally cool. Do I need the watch task anymore? No, because I don't need this. Gulp and my watch task and my NodeMon is kind of very similar, right? In fact, my NodeMon is even more powerful, right, than watch. And it also allows me to change stuff with now that I've changed this, by the way, I've got to stop my server. Hold on a second. One thing to note, right, is notice how I have tasks. I don't have to have one task in here. I can have many, a lot of them, and I'm going to have one pretty soon. I want to be able to call another task, a default task. And that default task is it's going to call NodeMon, but then I want it to launch my browser, right? And that's the open task. So let's go back in there. So we go back up online. And notice that I have this, I don't have connect anymore. I'm not going to use connect or reload, right? because my HTML and CSS and everything else is being taken care of by NodeMon, right? But I do want this open task, this open. So I'm going to grab this open task for a second. And I'm going to grab my default task on the bottom. I'm going to modify it. So let's go back to here. And underneath my develop task, I'm going to put those in. Okay, so this is what this does. It gulp open opens up a browser, but my gulp source, which is index.html, that's probably unnecessary for me to do that, right? If I look at the open tasks that are up there, all I have to do for open is open up a browser, right? So notice that I'm opening up index.html. I don't have index.html here, and I'm never going to have it. But I want to be able to go to my / like so instead of my index.html, I don't need a source necessarily for this one, but I do want to open it. So how do I do that? So I'm going to open a browser window, right, based on a source. So let's go to gulp open, right? So gulp open has its own little API, and see if we can use this thing for us, for our intents and purposes. Again, it would be gulp open. We've already done this piece where we can require an OS. Oh, by the way, the thing I'm going to show you works great for Mac, but when I open up a browser, it's OS specific, right? So if you're developing on a Mac, it's one way. If you develop on a PC, it's another way. So look how I have this gulp task that says, here's my index.html. That's cool, and I can pipe it into open. That's all right. But I want to be able to open up, instead of having a source, I don't really have a source, do I? I want to go to my localhost. And if you notice here, it says file name. So it says this will use the URI in the default browser, right? The URI, right? And I want to go to my localhost, right? Localhost. And so this looks more of what I want to do right here. So my options is localhost 3000. That's my URI. My app won't be Firefox, right? My app won't be Firefox. And my source is file name. That's a problem. That's probably going to be a problem right here, right? So let's check this out. So I want to kind of change my source. My localhost 3000 is cool, but my source goes from index.html to file name, underscore file name. Let's try that out. And we'll try it out the first time. And I won't run NodeMon yet. So this source, gulp source, goes to underscore file name, right? And then I'm going to pipe it into open this URI, localhost 8080. Let's not do 8080, let's do 3000, where NodeMon is going to be running, right? And it says my app is Google Chrome. For you, this is going to be different because you're on a PC. Let's see, first of all, if it works for me on a Mac, because this is the first piece I want to do. And I'll show you what yours is going to be in a second. So if I go gulp open, and what it should do is do one of these. And look what it's going to. It's going right to localhost 3000. That's good. That's what I wanted to do. And it just, look what it did. It completely fired up my Google Chrome browser, right? For you, I believe, if I'm not wrong, OS specific. If I go back, I think if you remove app altogether, it's going to open up your default application. So try that out. Don't worry about what it's opening right now, right? I don't want you to worry about what it's opening. All I care for you to do, right, is that it goes right up and opens a browser. I need this to happen after I do NodeMon. All right, take a look at this task. I'm going to transpile for the first time. I don't care about these tasks or connect, right? Here we are. I want to open up my browser, but I want to open it up after I do NodeMon, after I start developing, right? So this is my default task. What a default task is, you give it the name default, and then all you have to type is gulp. That's it. And then once you type gulp, it runs your default task, and the default task runs other tasks. So let me just try this out. So I'm going to go open. What I wanted to go develop. Okay. Open up my browser, right? All right, let's try this out. So save, go back over here, and I'm going to run gulp. right? Bam, it runs my browser in Mint Express, right? So to me, that's blazing. That's like exactly what I want. I want my browser to always be here, and I want to always reload, right, my browser every time, right? So that's what Open does. But I want to do a live reload, and that's one piece I haven't had a chance to do because it won't live reload. I still got to do, kind of a refresh if I do anything, right? Okay. Notice how NodeMon is still running, right, in the background. So I've reloaded. I've loaded my browser, but I'm not reloading my browser. Okay, so I'm going to kind of Control-C to get out of here. Let's look at another module. Maybe we need another module that helps us do that. So I'm going to go back to my plugin directory and type in reload, live reload. Here it is. Right. Let's see if live reload has a way of doing that. It says npm install -save -dev gulp minus live reload, and then I have to put in this code that says live reload is equal to true, start is equal to true, right? Let's take a look at my task, right? I've got my watch task, right? So it uses a watch task. How do I do that, right? And I want to be able to say that as soon as something changes, right? As soon as something changes, I want to live reload, right? Like this. Well, that makes sense, live reload, right? So I can put that into my task sequence, right? If I go to my task runner, right? One thing I can put in here for transpile, if something changes, one of these HTML, TypeScript, CSS, EJS files changes, I'm going to reload, live reload. That's what it's going to do, right? Okay. I like this. This is going to be good, right? So first I got to develop the task, and I download and install the stuff that I need. So back to Gulp, right? Here's Gulp. I need to install the thing. So npm install -save -dev. Let's do it. So npm install. First of all, clear the screen. npm install -save -dev Gulp live reload. I believe it is live reload. Goes out, grabs the live reload, and drops it in as another task that I can do. I can clear this now. Let's see if I get some TypeScript or type support for this one. So I'm going to go tsd install gulp-live reload, right? -save. And it goes out there, and if it finds it, it does. Not in this case, it doesn't. It's not a big one for live reload, so it didn't find it. That's okay. Okay, cool. So now that I got my live reload, I got to set it up here. So I'm going to say var live reload is equal to require gulp-live reload. If I did this correctly, I'm just going to check my API documentation, right? Here it is. Live reload is equal to gulp live reload, right? Makes sense. And now I can do a pipe live reload. I can do that. So when I do this task, I can pipe it into live reload, and I'm good to go, right? Okay. So let's see if we can make this work. So by the way, let's go back one more time. Let's go back to here. So again, live reload start is equal to true. It says gulp live reload will not automatically listen for changes. You have to manually call the live reload listen unless you set the option start live reload start true, right? That's what I got to do if I wanted to do this. But here's a usage example, right? And there is no live reload start true. I'm calling the live reload function right there, which reloads what I'm looking at, right? My watch task. Okay. And it tells you other things. Hopefully it gives you some other examples to give you some hints of how to make this puppy work, right? Hopefully it'll work. So we're going to go pipe. This is the next piece. Pipe into live reload. All right, let's go back down into this. And notice that we have a bunch of tasks, right? And here's my on this, and we have if this happens, as an example, on restart, say restart it, and instead of putting a semicolon, what am I going to do? Pipe to live reload. Let's see if that works. So go back down here and I'll say pipe into live reload, right? As soon as my everything starts, I'm going to live reload my browser. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, now there might be some tweaks we have to do here, so just bear with me. All right, so I saved everything. And I'm going to go back to here and run gulp. Bam, it runs. And then if everything goes well, it's going to transpile and nuts. It says error after develop TypeScript type error. NodeMon on pipe is not a function. So that's not good. So that's a mistake. That doesn't work like that. It's going to stop that. So on pipe, NodeMon on pipe doesn't work, right? That doesn't work out at all. So I got to be able to call, you know, this live reload stuff, right? So, you know, that's one thing I need to do. So if one of these things changes, then do something. That's what I'm basically asking you to do. So maybe I can do it before the on restart, right, kind of stuff. But that means that my function would start over again, and it wouldn't do that. So maybe live reload isn't the one I need to do. How about if I call the open function? So forget live reload altogether, right? So I'm trying to do something that normally would work on a web server, and I want to call not just transpile, but also open, right? So when I do everything, I'll open it first, but the fact is that when I open it first, I haven't restarted, so that may not work. Let's see if this works. We might have, by the way, we might get a series of openings like servers, bam, 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 like nonstop, and then we have to stop this thing from working. Because this is a task runner. That's what this is, right? So let's check this out. Go back here, and we'll go up here and go gulp. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? So it ran this, and I'm ready to go, but let's see what I got. Do I have any errors? So far, so good. Now I want to live reload. I want to live reload. So I want to change what it says here in my route. So I'm going to go back into my routes here, into my index.ts route. And instead of it saying express, I want it to say home, right? I'm going to press save. Save. Boom. Didn't do it. And let's see if it did it. Yeah, so it didn't quite reload it. It did what I asked it to do, but it didn't reload the browser, right? Almost. Getting closer, right? And the one thing to do sometimes when you get stuck like this, because we almost have it, is, you know, I like Googling it too. I'll say something like live, so gulp, live reload with, and I'll put in something like, you know, NodeMon, right? How do I do that? And someone will have a live reload with gulp, with NodeMon and gulp, right? Up here, where you can find some examples of a script that does it all, right? And that's not what I want. Here it is. Okay, so here's cool. Here's a default task. Here's my default call where I do a live reload.listen in my default task. And then in my default task, I do NodeMon. Here's cool. Here's cool. And then after I do my app.js, my gulp source, when I reload my page, oh, there it is. So this live reload.listen I got to do explicitly inside my develop task. So I'm going to kind of copy this piece. That's interesting. That's a way of doing it. So in my develop task, let's make this go, right? Here's my gulp file.js. Here's my develop task. And right at the top, before I hit NodeMon, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do live reload listen, right? So that makes sense because it's listening for a live reload. Okay, the next piece is NodeMon and script and blah, 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 whatever my extension and my scripts are going to be. And then on restart, right? I want to, my source is going to be app.js, but that's not going to be, it's going to be server.js. I want to restart my server, right? And then pipe it into live reload, and then notifying that it's reloaded. And that's happening on inside the on function. That's cool. So instead of it being just restarted like this, right? Let's get rid of this over here to say open. We'll grab that and kill it because we don't want to reopen our file. We just want to reload our stuff somehow. So I want to do that, and what I want to do is I want to do the open task in here. I want to call my open task. It's not exactly what this is doing, right? It's almost good. I want to pipe it into live reload, but I want to look at my gulp source app.js, right? Not sure this is what I want to do, right? Any recommendations? or anybody on the field. And you guys are watching now. You guys are watchers.
I'm gonna try it.
You're what? You're trying it out? I don't think it's going to work. Huh? Here, I don't think it's going to work, personally. I'll tell you why. Because I can't target app.js, because app.js, it says, when the app has restarted, run live reload. Well, my app is restarted, but my gulp source doesn't make any sense. I can call live reload right here by itself without piping it into anything, but what's it going to reload? Right? That's a problem for me, right? Okay, so I'm just going to try it like this. I'm going to see if I can just run live reload as a function inside of my before I restart. All right, so in here. So I'm going to do one of these. I'm going to say live reload. Let's see if that will work. It may not, guys. And I'm being honest. You know, it's a bit of a trial and error when you get a new API like this, because some of it, I know we're close. That's all I'm saying. I know we're close. We're not quite there yet. Okay. Okay, we saved it, and I'm going to restart my server by pressing gulp and press enter and see if it works. Okay, so that's cool. It shows home. Let's go back to this and see what I've got. No errors. And now let's change my index.ejs, or my route again, and we'll put it back to you know, TypeScript, just because something different to do. Save. Okay, so it's saved, but it's not taking me back. It says restarted. Does it restart? No. No, didn't restart. So that's a problem. So again, it's not quite restarting anything yet. It's still doing it. If I refresh, it's going to say TypeScript. That's cool, but I don't want it to refresh. I don't want to refresh it. I want it to refresh for me, right? All right. So we're almost there. We're close. We're close. And anyone, did you try it, Ari? Did it make it work for you?
No, I can't get it. The other way.
I know what to do. It's going to be one of these. Gulp source file name, right? And then pipe into. That's where it's going to be. So gulp source file name, just so it shows an example, right? And then we're going to pipe it into live reload. Pipe into live reload. There we go. Let's see if that matches the example that we've got over here. And we don't care about notify. We don't care because we're gonna util log that one. Okay, cool. So I'm going to save that. Go back out, and I'm going to Control C. Start it again, gulp. It's going to take me to my page. Yay, TypeScript. And I'm going to go back and go back into my index.ejs, which is up, or index.ts, which is up here. And I'm going to change this to something else, like live reload. Right? And save. Go back. Oh. It's quite nerd. Like it's there, right? It's all I have to do is refresh. I don't want to refresh. I want it to be automatic. That's the workflow I want, right? All right. Back to the drawing board. So that didn't quite do what I wanted to do. It didn't do the live reload. It did on restart. It did fire up this function, right? But it didn't do the live reload. Okay. Let's see if there's another option. Another little gulp file with loadmon, live reload, and this is what we have to do sometimes. We have to see a good example. A linter, here's a scripts task, here's a stylus task, an HTML task, here's a build task, and do I have even nodemon in here? I do, gulp nodemon. It's the last time I'll try this, and then we're going to move on, right? So here's nodemon, but they do this different. They do this different than the other one. When do they reload? And I'm just gonna go in here and look at it one more time to see if there is a live reload here. Yeah, they do. It's called refresh. Okay, so let's see where refresh is. So, which is really what I'm doing. I'm refreshing the page. So here it is. Refresh, and you're passing in something, which is server. And what's server? Server, that's interesting. Oh, it's the tiny server that you're passing in. So it's tiny LR. Isn't that interesting? So I wonder if I can pass that in there. But what does it pass? So guys, I'm not going to figure this out. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of research to do this properly. I've got it mostly working. By next week, I'll have it working for you. I promise. I'll fix all the TypeScript problems, right? I'll have separate files for my classes. I'll do it all, right? What I want you to do for your lab is I want you, instead of the live reload, if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. As long as you automate, I'm going to put this down here so you can see for your lab. So to get it done, you should be done pretty much, except for we're gonna deploy live in a second, right? So you can see this piece. So with my gulp file.js, obviously you need to have this default task, right, where it does transpile, develop, and open. That piece you need. The open task you need to fix. So obviously you're going to take this piece away, so that way it opens for you. Did that work for you, by the way? Right, it should have. That's one piece. The develop task is cool. This live reload obviously is not working, so we're just going to undo it, like just take it away, because I'm not going to make it work. If it doesn't do anything for me, I'm going to get rid of it. I'll have the live reload pieces in there, and we'll clean it up next week. Next week I'll come in here and I'll clean up my gulp util and some of the stuff that we don't need. We'll clean it up, right? So you make it work. So anyways, when he makes those sounds, it's like someone's tried it out and made it work, right? Okay, and so as long as you duplicate what I've got in here with your tasks, we're good for this lab piece, okay? So please don't go further than this. If I was going to restart, and if I go up to gulp and press enter, now it's going to, populate my set for the first time. And if I just have to, I have the inconvenience of pressing refresh, and then it's just going to live reload. Okay, let's fix up the next piece. My next trick, right, is I want you guys to fix up your Express portfolio. Imagine if you hadn't done it before, and you probably should have done it by now because it was due yesterday, right? What do I do next? So I've got my EJS files, and we talked about partials, right? So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to do a new folder, right, which we're going to call partials, right? Under partials, I want two files, header and footer. So I'll put that in. So new file, right? I'll say it'll be header.ejs, and I also want a new file called footer.ejs. Those are the two files, footer and header. And in my header, I want to take the stuff that I've got in my index.ejs, which, by the way, is very poor, right? Remember we did this last time, right? I've got some of this working, but I want to include Bootstrap and all that other stuff. How did I include Bootstrap last time? Does anyone remember when I did that? You guys should have done this in your own stuff. How do I do Bootstrap? I use Bower, right? Okay, so I want to use my public folder for my Bower. So it's going to be under public scripts or public lib, something where I'm going to have my stuff that comes in from my front end, right? So let's just go and restructure this a little bit. I need a Bower RC file. So I'm going to go right-click and new file. I'm going to go Bower RC. And Bower RC, we're going to put in a directory for Bower, which is going to be /public, right? And underneath public, we're going to call it scripts lib, which is going to do the same path we had before. This is my Bower RC. I want to do a Bower init now. Okay, so I'm going to stop this and do a Bower init, right, which is going to ask me some questions. I want to accept the defaults right here. There we go. Here's my Bower init. Looks good. And I want to add in those two. I need jQuery for Bower. I need Bootstrap, and I'm going to use Font Awesome because I want some kind of icon, right? Let's do all those things. So Bower install Bootstrap, or sorry, jQuery Bootstrap. This is explicit. Bootstrap will download jQuery anyway, and font-awesome. And then -minus save. So it's going to go out, grab everything I need, throw it into my folder, and create my folder structure. So inside my scripts lib, I have everything there. Remember, I never have to talk public because public is on the path, right? I've included public in my path. I don't have to worry about this. Okay, but what I need to do is I need to go in and in my index.ejs file, which is inside my server folder. Now, I'm going to have to, somewhere in here, in my index.ejs, I want to rejig this thing so it uses my structure that I want, right? Okay, so I'm going to go and make this into an HTML file. This is important to do. And in here, what I want to say is, I don't have any header or footer, and a great place to get all this information is get bootstrap. So I'm going to get bootstrapped on this one, so I'm going to kill all these ones and go get bootstrap here for this one. And I'm going to go back to getting started and scroll all the way down where I've shown you this before, where I kind of grab this basic template here for bootstrap, which includes everything I need and then some. But I don't need it all. I just need these meta tags, which I'm not going to copy. I'm not going to write. I'm just going to copy and paste the meta tags. So the meta tags go here. And I'm just going to format the code again. There's my meta tags. And I'm working with my EJS file for a second. Okay, that's one. And my title tag is here. This is where the title is going to come into play. And this is my other stuff. Instead of my style sheet, my style.css, remember we changed this around, right? I want my style.css to, it can remain there if it wants, right? But let's just go in there and kill it. Under public, I have scripts as an example, and I have JavaScripts. JavaScripts is something maybe I want to get rid of right now because I don't care about, and I'm not going to have JavaScripts and scripts. So let's get rid of JavaScripts. I'm not using it anyway. And under my style sheets, I don't want to call this style sheets. I want to rename this content, right? So right click, and I want to rename my folder so it's content, capital C, by the way, right? So to align with Microsoft. And now, obviously, my style.css, I mean, I'm going to call this app.css just to conform with my style. So rename an app.css. And I don't need any of this stuff right now. I'll just leave it blank, and I'll say custom style sheet. Because you have rewritten my express generator to serve me, not for me. I don't want to serve it, right? You know, I want it to serve me. So far, I'm getting this done. In my back inside my we'll close this up here. In my views, in my index.ejs, right, this file here, what I want to do now is I want to reference at the bottom at least content, and it's going to be app.css. That's the one that's mine, right? But I also want to include, and I'm going to just clean this up a little bit too, just so that it's one line, not for any other reason, just like this. I want to also include a couple of references. So I'm going to put this as my CSS section, and you should have seen me doing this before. I want to put a link, and in my link, I want to point to my bootstrap and stuff like that. And from what I remember, it's scripts, and it's going to be lib bootstrap, and then it's dist CSS. I hope I'm right. Bootstrap.min.css. Pretty long, and if you wanted to check that, you can look at public scripts lib bootstrap dist CSS bootstrap.min.css, which is right here. Right? I want that one, and I also want, because I remember this path, I want to just copy this path here, and I want to do the same thing with my bootstrap theme, because I want to use my bootstrap theme if I want to. There it is. I also want my font awesome, and I got that piece too, so I know that I can probably do almost the same thing here, so put it in there. Scripts lib, and this will be font awesome. And it's, I don't think it's dist. Let me just check that out and see if it is. So it's font awesome CSS. So font awesome CSS. So I don't care about the dist piece. And it's not bootstrap, it's font-awesome .min.css, right? There, that piece is all done. And now at the bottom of my file, right? Again, I always like saying for my next trick, at the bottom of my file here, I want to put in, sorry, it's just evening that out a little bit. I want to put it before the body tag is over, right? I want to put in my JavaScript section. So here's my JavaScript section. Here it is. And underneath this, I want to put in the stuff that I'm doing for JavaScript, which is, if I look at scripts lib, I need jQuery first, and my distribution for jQuery. So it's going to be script and source, src. Be careful not to type in the wrong thing here. And it's going to be scripts, lib, and jQuery. And then it's dist and jQuery.min.js. I need that first before I serve up Bootstrap. Take this, put this in, scripts lib, and then instead of it being jQuery, we're going to go to Bootstrap dist JS. So scripts lib, Bootstrap dist JS, and it's bootstrap.min.js. And there it is. So those two files, jQuery and Bootstrap. By the way, if I wanted to add in other things like Angular, I could add it here, right? If I was going to make an Angular website, a single page site, a SPA, if you will, by using EJS routing and AngularJS. We'll talk about that later. Okay, I want to prove that I'm using Bootstrap. So just before I do my partials, and I want to do this main with a class of container, right? And here's my main with a class of container. I'm going to use the Option or Alt key to kind of scroll up here and tab in a little bit just to keep clear. You can also cut and paste. So now I have my container. These things are in a container, right? So I can get that Bootstrap styling done. Okay, I've done that. Let's take a look at what's going on here, right? I'm going to put gulp in here, which is going to launch my thing here. It's going to say live reload, right? Nothing's changed. And we have a problem. How do I know we have a problem? Well, first of all, let's make sure that I've saved everything. So I'm going to say File, Save All. And when I do that, if anything's going to change, it's going to change now. Do a live reload. And let's look at my inspector here to see if I've got the proper pathing. And whoa, do I have some bad issues? So it's looking at scripts lib bootstrap dist css, and it says status is not found. Bootstrap.min.css. So local scripts lib bootstrap dist, right? And it doesn't include that. It's bootstrap dist css is what I want to do. This one. And I'm not seeing anything there. It's not finding it. And same thing with content. App.css, it's not finding that either. How come? Well, public is included in our path. But what's wrong with our pathing? How come it's all failing? And it would have worked before, right? Yes, it's true. The app.ts is a problem. Show me the app.ts. You're very smart. Let's go back to the app.ts. This is one thing we never checked, right? So if I go back to my app.ts, which is inside my server, right? Here it is right now. Notice that we said we want our views. This is cool. We wanted to join our views, look in the views directory. And we want our public to join our stuff too. But public, is that right? That's not right, is it, anymore, right? Because our path is messed up, ladies and gentlemen, right? Because our app.ts is sitting inside of our server, right? And we need to go up one and down another, right? So our public is actually up one and down into public, yeah? Our views, though, is on the same level. So views is working because views is right here, right? But our public is up one and down another, right? Let's try this out and see if I'm right. Notice that's going to restart NodeMon. There it is, right? And if it was wrong, if there's a problem, it would an immediate problem. It would know what's the problem, right? So let's go back to here and refresh and see if we got it. And now we have everything right. Notice that there is no problems in the console. So that was one problem, and thank you very much, Lucy, for pointing that out, or else we would be in trouble, right? Live reload. I don't like live reload. That doesn't make any sense, right? We want to build this out later on, but for now, this is part one. Go back into our views, and we have our index.ejs. It works, but I want to cut now my piece, my index.ejs apart, right? Because I want this top piece, including my body tag, to go away, right? So this whole piece right here, whoop, and I want to cut it, and I'm going to put it in my header, and I want to paste and save. And I want to do the same thing with my footer. I'm going to go back into my index and grab my footer, including the JavaScript files and my body tag, and cut it and put it into my footer and paste and save. Okay, so I've got my partials, and I need to include them now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say up here, this is how we do the partials, remember? We do angle bracket percent include partials, and then header.ejs percent angle bracket, and the same thing goes in the bottom. Percent angle bracket include partials footer.ejs percent angle bracket. Save. So now my index.ejs, my index template, the first template I made, index.ejs, has two partials, a header and a footer, right? Okay. This is cool. I like it. Let's take a look and see if it works. First of all, see if NodeMon restarted, which it did, right? And let's see if this works. It works. And let's say just, let's look at the inspector to make sure that doesn't crap out on us, right? So console is cool. Sources should only show on the back end, right? Notice that it shows scripts lib. Now I do see all the other sources from my jQuery, and my content should show my app.css, which is cool, right? So here's my jQuery.min.css. All this stuff is working. But one thing that's really cool that it does, it hides how we put together our views. That's really good because you can hide all kinds of information. Now, if I do a right click and I want to do a view page source, that's a totally different thing. And it'll show me how that this page source has been smashed together, right? So I've taken my header, which is a partial. I've taken my main body, which is my template, my index.ejs, and I've taken my footer, and they all smash together at the end and render a complete page. That's what happens. So partial pages, templates, create my full page. This is a question that I got in an email. Does anyone not understand this concept of having a header and a footer? We've done this again in PHP. Should have seen it in PHP. If you've done ASP.NET, you probably see it there. You've seen it there as well, right, on that end. This is not something that's new, okay? It's just the way we do it here with the mean stack. Okay, let's fix this. I want to include some kind of navigation bar at the top. So I'm going to go back to Get Bootstrap. I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to hit Components now. And on the right, I'm going to go back down to Navbar. Remember we did this last time. And I'm going to grab this whole Navbar thing, but I'm going to cut it apart, right? Because I don't need it all. So I've got to grab this whole Navbar. Yay, copy it. I'm going to go back to here, right? And inside my header, here's my header. What I want to do is I want to put it just underneath my body tag. I want to put my navbar. Hey, here's a question. Can I have my navbar included as another partial navbar? That might be better because that way I have control whether I want to show my navbar or not, depending if the user's logged in or not. Right? I have that kind of control, right? So let's try this out. So in the future, maybe I might need that kind of control. So I'm going to go in my partials, make a new file. We'll call this thing navbar, right? Here's my navbar.ejs, and pop it in there. Oof, there it is, right? My navbar has its own container and all that kind of stuff, so this is pretty cool. I want to, just as a prelim, I want to kind of include it underneath my header. So I'm going to kind of do one of these. I'm going to say percent include partials navbar.ejs, right? So now that's another thing that's being included and smashed together, right? Here's my navbar.ejs, and I don't need all of this. Let's change this into HTML because unfortunately for Visual Studio, it doesn't understand EJS files, but that's okay. So here it is, and what I want to do is I want to get rid of some of this stuff. I don't want to touch this piece. So if you did what I did and you created a navbar that's from just by itself, those navbar.ejs, then I don't want to touch anything from line 1 to line 12. That's pretty much the way I set things up. Maybe my brand. I could set up my brand. Maybe I did that brand where I did the little castle. I'm going to do that again in a second. But from this piece on, I want to touch line 16. I want to get rid of everything from line 16 all the way down till about line 37. So I want to get rid of my form and everything else. So all I have is this. Even this is too much. And I want to get rid of this drop down. So I get rid of all this drop down stuff and this list item. And all I'm left now with my nav bar should look like this. That's my nav bar. That's what you see. So pretty much from line 1 to 22. That's it. And I can even get rid of this little space here to make it even tighter. And maybe even this space. What the hell? So line 1 to 20. That's what your nav bar should look like. I've just killed the other pieces, right? I need to have more links than this. This is only one little link. And I want to add them in now. So I want to say home, and I want to start adding in these links. So this is where we get into some hairy kind of conditional statements. We're going to show you how to do that today. 3, 4, 5. So there's like 5 little links. So home, let's do the thing that I've asked you to do. Products, services, about us, and contact us, right? Those are the things that I've asked you to do. Contact us. Okay, cool. What do I see when I get this thing now? So if I've saved everything and notice that this all restarted and everything else, I go back here to my live reload and refresh and I get nothing, right? How come? Well, make sure, first of all, that I've saved everything. It looks like I got something that's unsaved, right? So file, save all, just to make sure. Now I'll go back here and refresh. There it is, brand, and I've got my little stuff in here, right? My nav bar is loaded in with everything else, and I've got bootstrap styling and everything. If I want my nav bar to be black, what's the way I can do that? What's the styling that I want? If I'm going to make my nav bar black, what do I do? Inverse. That's the way to do it. So I go back to this one, right? And where it says nav bar default up here in the top for bootstrap, I just have to change this to nav bar inverse. There it is, right? And now if I go back here and refresh, boom, it's the inverse, right? It's done. This is my inverse nav bar. Okay. And you know what? Let's change I want to get that active link. And this is where the challenge comes from. When I want to do my active links, remember I talked about that a little bit? I want to have, every time I'm on a link, it'll show me which link I'm active on. But that requires a little bit of work on the routing side. I need to set up some routes for everything else, except for my contact us page, which I'm going to make a different template. Okay, so we're almost done here. Let's try this out. So under the routes section, here's where I'm going to start changing my TS file here. I've got this get home page route, right? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in here. And in this paste, so I'm going to do products. This is my home. And so I'm going to change this live reload. So where it says live reload, it's going to say, you know, whatever my site is called, Express or whatever I want it to make, right? Welcome to Express or welcome to, you know, well, hello world or whatever, right? For now, I'm just going to call this home, right? I'm going to call this page here products, and it's going to say products. Follow me here for a second without the exclamation mark. And this is going to be my product page. Do the same thing with my services. It's all routes, right? Services. And here's my services page. And then I'll do the same thing for my about us. So it's going to be called about. And here's about us. Let's call it about for now. And contact us will be there. I'll put it in for now, but we're going to change it. So this is product. Sorry, let's make that update this stuff to about page, and this is my contact page. We'll say this is a contact. Right now, it's going to use my regular index template, but we're going to make this so that the title is going to change, right? So notice I have home, product, services, about, and contact. And there's different links. All the links are associated. So index, so my main site, my root, my products, my services, my about, my contact, all that's there. And they're all using the index template, every one of them, even contact for now, right? Okay, cool. Now, how do I differentiate which page I'm on? My title. My title is always being sent into my site whenever I use my index.ejs. Let's get back there. So we'll go back to index.ejs, and that's under views. Here it is. And notice that when it comes in here, it tells me, welcome to blah, 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 right? Welcome to. And maybe what I want to say is, instead of welcome to, we'll say services page. So service page. One of those. That makes more sense to me. Oh, actually, let's take the paragraph tag. We'll put some lorem text in there for now, okay? So we'll say, for this one, we'll say whatever the paragraph tag is going to be. By the way, here's something else, right? My title is one thing, but my paragraph stuff, the actual content would be different, yeah, for every page. And I can inject my content depending on what kind of page I have. Like this is a template for all of my pages. And my pages might require different templates based on my index.ejs. So I may have another one that's called, like another partial section that's called content. So each content I can include my content depending on which page I'm loading, right? So if I'm loading, for example, this, then I include this content or the other content. Okay, but for now, it's going to say in my title, it's going to see the blah, blah, whatever page. That's what it's going to say. In my paragraph tag, we're just going to take the paragraph tag out for now and leave it out, empty, save. But in my partials, I have my navbar.ejs, and notice that I have a bunch of these links. Well, that's great. And if whenever I have to differentiate between one page and another, this would be enough. But this isn't enough. I want to use a class of active, right? When I'm on the home page, right? I want to use this class of active. But when I'm on the products page, I want to switch that class to products. And I want to take it off the home page. So how do I do that? Well, with EJS, you can use some scripting, right? So I can do one of these. I can say % if, follow me here, title is exactly equal to home, right? Then %, right? Then do this. Do these list items and blah, blah, blah. That's what I want you to do if the title is equal to home. And then on the bottom here, right? This is a conditional, %, close bracket, a close curly brace, right? Else if title, you can see what I'm going to do now, right? Is equal to products, right? Because products is the next one. Then %, and I'm going to take this whole thing again as a conditional and put it in here, right? But I'm going to move the class active from here to here. Anyone not know what I'm doing? Please speak up, because it's gonna come back to bite you in future lessons. So copy, paste. If the title is services, then I want this piece again. I want to take away this piece, this class active from here, and I want to put it on the services area, right? And if title is equal to about, right? My title is about the about page, right? Then I want to copy this, put it in here, move this piece, my class active, from my services page to my about page. And one more, do one more time. This one, copy, and I want to go down here, paste. If my title is contact, and I want to take this whole thing right here, copy it, put it down here, and change my active class from my about us to my contact page. There it is. And now I need to end it off, right? Oops. So I need to go here and go %, and then I need to close it off, right? Just like I normally would. Think about what I'm doing. I'm actually using conditionals with EJS to decide what my navigation is going to look like. Does that make sense? Let's see if it works. One thing is nice to think of what's going to work. Another is to test it out. So I'm going to save this thing. And once I've saved, of course, we're watching. So I can go refresh. And now I can see that my home page has an active link on it. Take a look. If I go products, then it should go to my products page. Oh, wait. I didn't put my, oh, man. That's a pain in the ass. I should have done that before I started all that copying. I should hit myself in the head. So what's really the links that I got here? So I got to do this. Oh, sorry, products. And you're going to see me go through this in a second. Just the slash. And this is services. So just do this one time. And then I'm going to go in there, services. Right? About, otherwise it's not going to move anywhere. Contact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pages that make sense, like something that looks like this, and I'm going to put back that active class because it's easier for me to do that active class instead of doing all these ones. So I'm sorry, I apologize. So active, 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 because otherwise I have to copy all those links and that would be really bad. So I don't want to do that. Yeah, okay. And now I'm going to go through and copy those, just move the link around. So I'm going to go for this one. It's going to be the second one. Sorry, I got this one more time. Yeah, that sucks. And this one over here to the third one. And this one over here to the fourth one. That's just faster. And one more time. This one over here to the last one. Okay, that wasn't that bad. All right, so that's done. Let's check it out now and see if it works. Refresh. So home, products, services, about us, contact us. And now we have a moving, you know, our links, our active link shows different depending on which page I'm on. And it also tells me what page I'm on. Now, one more thing that I asked you to do was I asked you to make a different template for your contact page, right? So let's do that really quickly, right? So I'm going to go back in here. And in my partials, I have my index.ejs. I'm going to make another one under views, new file called contact.ejs. And I want to copy my index for a second, just so I can have my footer and my everything else. I'll go back into contact and paste. The only thing I want to do different here is my container is going to not have just this. It's also going to have a some kind of contact page, which I'm going to grab from getbootstrap.com. Me being lazy the way I am, right? So instead of doing that, now it's almost complete. There's some minor differences. So I'm going to go to CSS, and I want to go to my forms for CSS, and I'm just going to grab this form, this basic form right here. There it is. Not even going to look to see what this is, and I'm going to go back here and paste the form right in line. Go back into HTML and format code. So it's all nicely formatted. There we are. And what I want to do in my routes, in my index.html, index.js, in my contact, instead of using my index template, which I've been using the whole time, I'm going to change this to the contact template. And now that I've done that, if I go back to my contact and refresh, right? Well, let's see if it restarts first. Did I refresh? Did I forget to do something? File, save all. Yes. Yes. Contact EJS. That's good. My partials, my container. And we're going to go back to my home page and refresh. And products, services, about us. And we should get this page that's not rendering. Why isn't it rendering? View page source. Contact page. That's all it's showing. That means it's not updated somehow. And that's not happening. Where it's not happening is in my route. So in my index.ts, I didn't change it. I changed it in my index.js by accident. So contact. There we go. And once I've changed that now, I'm going to refresh, and I should see that contact form. There it is. So,
Can you show us the index?
yes, sorry. Index.ts is just different routes, right? And all I'm using is the same. I'm gonna upload this to GitHub in a second, right? This is all from scratch. Any questions around the stuff that I've done? You've seen this before. I'm giving it to another chance because, guys, the Express generator is something you have to wrap your mind around. And in future videos and future things we do together, I'm going to be using Lab 4 as my jump-off point. Okay, so I'm not going to do all this again. I'm not going to go and regenerate everything and start from scratch. No. We're going to start from here because I've got my gulp file.js. If anything, I'm going to fix my gulp file so it works even better for me, right? More automation. And I'm going to do everything from there. Every time we do a MongoDB or something else, some other database, anything that's going to reload, I'm going to use this template, if you will. This boilerplate is what I'm going to be using from now on. Okay, one more thing before we send it up to GitHub and everything else is I need to go and in my inside my my partials in my navbar, I have this one little navbar brand. And this is where my product brand goes in here. So I'm going to put in, logo goes here, goes here. I want to change that so you know this is where your logo image would go. I know I've seen some people put in like this, their font awesome. Please don't do that. That's like really, bogus, right? Don't put a font awesome font in there and that's your logo. That's not good. Please don't do that. And I want to upload it to GitHub. So I'm going to stop this thing. And remember how we did GitHub last time for this? I'm going to go git init, git add dot, lots of stuff to add here, tons and tons of stuff, 99 plus files. Here's something I didn't do. Did I create a git ignore file? I didn't. I better, right? So here's my git ignore file, git ignore. I probably didn't do this in time. I want node modules to be there, modules. And I also want, from another perspective, which I'm gonna fix up my thing, my C9. I don't want any Cloud9 stuff. I don't want any DS underscore store. That's definitely, I don't want that. And let me just fix that up again. So I'm gonna go remove -rf .git for a second and do that again. So git init, git add dot, git commit -m initial commit, and somewhere or another, I have a Git repository waiting for me, right? That's up here waiting for me. Under Georgian College, I have one. This is Lab 4, and it's empty. I'm just going to grab these last two lines, right, and go to Git and paste. Now it's going to push everything up to Git. So if you haven't been able to follow along, if you missed my gulpfile.js or something and you watch the videos later on, you have my Git example. And if you want to do your lab, please make your lab a little different than mine to hand it in, right? So if you hand it in, put your name on it or something. Make it yours, man. So that way it doesn't look like it's just my files being uploaded to your lab, right? Yeah. Well, it's on node modules, right? So I definitely want to put up my, gulp, my gulp file because otherwise that'll be bad, right? But node modules ignores everything else, all right? All right, let's just see if this is cool, if I've got everything there. So I'm going to go back to here and refresh. And yeah, we've got our gulp and everything else. One thing I would probably want to put in is maybe a README file really quickly. So kind of COMP2068 lab 4 for Georgian College. There it is. And we'll save that. And then I'll pull that down, right? So I'll say git pull. And that'll pull that down into my local repository. Because remember, I put it up online, but I want to be synced up with my commits. So everything's the same. So I've got 2 commits right now for this one. And again, I'm going to be using this one as we go. Unfortunately, I've run out of time, or else I would have deployed this to Azure, right? Which is my next step to deploy it live to Azure. And we're going to do that next week. Okay. So remember, this little lab, you should be done by now. If you follow along with me, you should be done and handed it in, right? If you haven't had a chance to hand it in, you have a couple of days till Friday at midnight, along with your project number 1 to do, right? That's due. All right, and next week when we get back, I'll give you MongoDB. We'll talk week 6, MongoDB, and you'll get your project number 2. All right, another little thing to do. Questions around this stuff? Anybody? Yes. Something there? Okay, I'll be right there. Thanks very much, guys. See you next week.